Good morning and good morning. Thank you for joining me on another episode of the Roundtable Talk Show. I am your host, Sharifa Hardy, and I have a very interesting show for you today. We're going to meet some new friends, one of my favorite friends, and we're going to have a great discussion. So go ahead and get your notepad, your recorder, whatever it is that you need to take notes, because I'm sure you will want to retain the information that we learned today. But before I go ahead and introduce today's guest, I'm going to ask you to do what I always ask you to do, and that is to go out and be an evangelist for the Roundtable Talk Show. There's someone that you know. I don't know if they're at your house, at your job, but someone needs this information. Maybe they're asleep right now and they need to wake up and watch this show, but they won't have this information unless you go ahead and share the show with them. Because as I always say, friends don't let friends miss out on the Roundtable Talk Show. So while you're introducing the show to your friends, I'm going to introduce one of my friends. You've seen him here before. He's basically been a co-host. He's been on the show so many times that we've been able to learn about his start, his businesses. He just sold a business. He's the CEO of a business, and he helped save the world. Mr. Jim Estill. Jim is currently CEO of Danby Appliances. Jim is a Canadian technology entrepreneur, executive, and philanthropist. He started his first computer distribution business from the trunk of his car while in university and grew that business to $2 billion in sales. He's incredible. I watch him every day on social media, and every post he makes, I share because the content is just that amazing. Good morning, Jim. How are you?
Excellent. How are you, Sharifa?
I'm excited to have you here. Like I said, you're one of the few people I enjoy learning from because you are one of the most real and down-to-earth CEOs that I have ever met. So, Jim, for the people who don't know you, please let them know who you are, what you do, and what you're passionate about.
Well, like Sharifa said, I'm CEO of Danby Appliances, and we're a smallish appliance manufacturer. We make about 2 million appliances a year. I'm an entrepreneur, a serial entrepreneur, and she put big weight on my shoulders to save the world. I try to do my part to save the world, and I have some very eccentric views on running businesses and whatnot, and I don't take myself too seriously, as you can see from the hair. But that's partly because I'm in Canada and we're in lockdown for pandemic, so I can't get my hair cut. That's life here.
When are you going to be able to get your hair cut?
I think it's going to be as soon as a couple of weeks, but right now the answer is no. And so I actually set the example and don't try to do it. And in the end, who cares, right? I mean, it's all good. I figured
like it.
Good enough for Einstein, good enough for me. How's that?
You're gonna look like Einstein a little bit more soon. Like your hair is gonna be when we first started doing this show, your hair was just low, it cut, and then it just grew and grew and grew. This is interesting. It's fun. We open here June 15th, but by the time you open up, you may not want a haircut.
That could be. That could be.
No. But again, I believe from your first appearance, one of the things that you talked about is being the CEO and then sitting down, in the lunchroom at the table and talking to your employees. You make it a point to speak to everyone, to learn. Can you talk a little bit about that, Jim?
Well, the pandemic changed life because everything's social distance, but my leadership style was very much walk through and talk to people and eat lunch in the lunchroom, go to the barbecues and stuff like that. And so I try to be more of a hands-on social CEO. I make soup for my the one office I happen to be located in has probably 150 people in it, and I make soup for all 150 people, and I make it with herbs out of my garden. I didn't have enough herbs, so now I have a garden at work and stuff like that, which is the way I tend to keep in touch with my people.
Okay, so I just want to make sure I heard you correctly because, I tend to misinterpret things. So when you say you make soup for 150 people, you physically make it with your own hands.
I not only physically make it with my own hands, most of the time I physically make it with my own vegetables that I grow in my own garden, and my own vegetables and my own herbs. And so I ran out of herbs in my home garden. So I didn't have enough space. So I had to do a vegetable garden at work, a little herb garden at work, which I have a little gardening committee that helped me on it. That was all pre-pandemic. Now my daughter-in-law and I look after the one at the office. But see, I'm actually very boring. I don't have much interest except business and health and gardening and cooking and stuff like that, where everyone says, oh, tell me about the game last night. And I can't tell you about the game last night. And the only famous person I know is Sharifa. That's the only one I know.
You are hilarious, Jim. I love when you're on the show. Now, there was a reason why I asked if you physically did it with your own hands, because sometimes as CEOs, they'll say, oh, well, we did this. And you already know the we was not them. It was just some people who took care of it. So as a CEO with, everything you have to do, how do you find the time to feed 150 people?
Well, for sure. I certainly don't do it every day or every week.
Okay.
I do it every few weeks. So that's one thing. And I guess doing something different is break. But I'm actually, I will freely tell people that I'm a CEO that doesn't do anything, because I do have my people who do things. So everybody else does all the work. As you know, because you've talked to Sherry on organizing things and stuff like that, right? She does all the work. And everybody else who I work with does most of the work. I just get to do things like this and come on to Sharifa, and like it's easy, right? It's just
Jim, stop it, because you are making the people believe that's true, and that is not true. Yes, I speak to Sherry, but Sherry's amazing. She's wonderful. She is the application of your vision and your ideas, but it still takes energy to be the CEO and come up with the vision, Jim. So I'm not going to let you say that you don't do anything. In fact, I'm going to put you on punishment, because I'm going to come back to you, okay, Jim? I want you to just sit there for a while and think about what you said wrong. I want to introduce our next guest, Mr. Donald Mckellar. Donald has 20 years of consulting and coaching experience combined with senior management positions such as controller for a retail nursery, CFO of an engineering co, and COO of a retail electric provider in Texas. He has been coaching in business and in his personal life throughout his career. In 2014, he began formal education as a life and executive coach, certified by the ICF and the GTCI. Good morning, Don. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing well, thank you.
You are so welcome. Don't worry, Don. I only give Jim a hard time. I'm nice to everyone else. Okay, so you don't have to be nervous or concerned. 20 episodes in, then I'll start to give you a hard time.
Does that mean I can give Jim a hard time too?
Yes, absolutely. The more, the merrier. Tell us about yourself, Don.
Well, I am the classic generalist. I know a lot about a lot of different things, and I know what I don't know, which is everything. But I have, as I said, as you said in my intro, I have literally been coaching people since probably before I left college, but certainly since I entered the work world. My first few jobs, I worked for companies that would send me what they called the basket cases, the people they were about to let go, to see if I could recover them. And I had a tremendous success rate in that. So I guess in hindsight, I have been a coach all my life.
So tell us about your coaching, Don. What do you coach people on?
Currently, because of demand, I am working with leadership teams. And as Jim will probably attest and many others have experienced, leadership teams are rarely more than a team in name only. So what I teach, what I work with them on, is how to share the responsibility, how to communicate between not just the team, but with the teams below that are actually doing the majority of the hands-on work. And then I was admiring Jim's commentary about how he uses the word we, which is so important for so many leaders. And everything is about we. And the messaging behind that is so valuable because it's so inclusive. And I think it is wonderful. And Jim, you're also a pretty good internal communicator.
Yes, absolutely. We're gonna talk a little bit more about that, Don. I want to come back to you. I want to go
Okay.
ahead and introduce our next guest, the amazing, wonderful Miss Veronica Kirin. Veronica is an anthropologist, author, and serial entrepreneur who works with business leaders to scale their impact and income while managing imposter syndrome. She is also the author of the award-winning book, Stories of Elders, and the creator of the Stories of COVID Research, which documents the pandemic in real time. Good morning, Veronica. How are you?
Good morning. I am well. And Sharifa, I heard you say that you were running for city council in Long Beach, California at one point. Is that correct?
Yes, I ran in the March 3rd, 2020 election. They wouldn't give me city council, so I took the round table. Then I'm running for Senate in 2024. So what you got, Veronica?
That's amazing. Well, I was living in Long Beach when the pandemic started. So I was
Oh,
there during
wow.
your campaign, but I wasn't a full resident, so I couldn't vote for you. And I apologize for that.
I don't even know what to say to that, Veronica. You were here, you heard about me. I didn't get a phone call, an email today. You know what I mean? Like, you see, I'm already in that mode, Veronica. Wow. Wow. I don't even know what to say.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, based on that, you probably can gather then that I left the country during the pandemic.
Yes. Yes. So where are you
Yeah.
now?
So I'm in Berlin, Germany. I've always
Wow.
had itchy feet. I've always wanted to live abroad, and we felt like it was the right time during the pandemic. And I'd work hard. Similar to Jim, I sold a business a couple years ago because it was holding me to a particular location, and I knew I wanted to be location independent. So I redeveloped my entrepreneurship as well as my goals in order to become location independent. And once the pandemic happened, it was like, well, I'm not seeing people anyway, so I might as well just go somewhere else.
Okay,
Um,
Veronica. See, Long Beach is my favorite place in the
it's
entire world.
amazing.
So I'm
Oh,
trying to
yeah.
understand how you went from Long Beach, California, the city where Sharifa Hardy is, to Germany.
We got on a plane on inauguration day.
Wow. You just left.
Jumped through many hoops actually in order to make it happen, but we're loving it here, and I needed to be in someplace even bigger, which I know is like LA is kind of one of the biggest places you can be, but Berlin is the Silicon Valley of Europe, and there's a lot going on here. Plus, it is just as I won't say more than, but it is at least just as transient as LA is. But I tell everyone here that Los Angeles has 212 spoken languages in it, which is my anthropology hat coming on. I made sure, I wanted to know when I was moving to LA back in the day in Long Beach, how much culture really is here, because that matters to me a lot.
Yes, I love it. So who's going to help me run for Senate? I'm going to need the voters, Veronica.
Oh, I've got people there still. Don't you worry.
Okay, so I got people. I love it when people, have your people call my people, please.
I'll
I'm going
have
to come
my
back
people
to
call
you.
your people.
I'm going to come back to you, Veronica. I want to introduce our next guest, and I'm speeding along today. I'm going fast. I think I'm excited to get into this
She
conversation.
had coffee.
Oh, y'all don't want to see me. I don't drink coffee. You don't want to see me on coffee. I'm telling you, because if anyone thinks that I'm bouncing off the wall now, imagine me on coffee. It would be much worse. But I'm going to go ahead and introduce my next guest, the incredible Miss Marla Goldberg. Marla is an energy healer, self-care expert, and host of Guided Spirit Conversations podcast. She is the best-selling author of My Long Journey to Loving Myself, a guide to a shorter path, and My Sacred Journal. In 2003, Marla's life had hit rock bottom. Feeling lost and not having anyone to turn to, Marla saw a promotion for a women's conference. It was at this conference where Marla met her first spiritual teacher, And we're going to let Marla tell you about that experience as well as the full name of her book. Good morning, Marla. How are you?
Good morning, Sharifa. How are you doing?
I don't know. I'm nervous. Veronica made me nervous. Jim made me nervous. Now I don't know what to expect.
Calm, zen, easy, easy breezy, but with
How
some
are,
nice energy behind it.
how are you?
I'm good. I'm excellent.
Yes.
I'm in
Energy
beautiful
healing.
Black Mountain. Yes, energy healing.
I love that because as Veronica knows, LA, Orange County, the mecca of a lot of energy healing and psychics, and half my friends are channels. So I understand a lot about what you're talking about. But tell us about yourself. Tell us the name of your book and what you're passionate about.
So my book is called My Effing Long Journey to Loving Myself, A Guide to a Shorter Path. And the book came about when I was guided to write it. And it was done mostly by automatic writing. So for those who don't know automatic writing, you get into a meditative state, you have a pen and a paper nearby, and you open your eyes and you just start writing. And whatever it is, you just put it down. You don't think about it, you don't edit, you don't criticize it, judge it, you just write it. And I got halfway through and found out it was my story. And I kept getting messages from Spirit about how to structure the book. So it's a memoir, but it's also self-help. So there are tips, tools, and techniques in the back of the book that I used and use to this day to process when I'm upset or to offer forgiveness because things happen, and how to bring, full acceptance of who you are. Because we all have those points when we look in the mirror, no matter how good we look. It's like that mustard stain commercial. Your focus is on the mustard stains. You always focus to the part of you that you don't like. So this is to learn how to fully accept yourself, as I like to say, warts, wrinkles, and all. And then moving into self-love, which is not an easy thing to do, especially because, we're all humans, but we're spiritual beings first. Humans is just the condition we're living in. And so as spiritual beings, we have flow, but we have a lot of blocks, programs, and interferences based on past life issues that are brought into this life or things that have happened in this life that haven't been processed in a healthy, positive way. And so that's what the book is about, how to do this for yourself. And that's how I work with my clients. So I'm trained in over 25 modalities. And actually, I'm about to become certified in another group of modalities and become a master metaphysician. But what I do is I work with my clients in either helping them to clear these blocks, programs, and imprints and interferences, or I use my intuitive life coaching, my psychic skills to help guide them. As I was a serial entrepreneur, this would be considered my fifth business. I'm able to take, my left brain, my right brain, put it together to help guide people through their lives.
Wonderful. So I've had different people with different modalities, different abilities on the show. Some people received messages during the show. Some people did readings during the show. Some people did automatic writing during the show. Are you able to do any of those things during the show?
I'm usually very present in the moment. So can I do it? I think if I let myself go, I might be able to do it. But traditionally, I just sort of stay here and present with the host, you, and listen to since this is a panel, listen to everybody else and contribute in the moment. Let's open up and see what happens.
Let's open up because we need a message today for Jim. I think Jim needs a hug or somebody to just speak to him. Okay, but I can't request it. But if you open up and anything comes through, Marla, I want you to feel free to let it go and release it on this platform. Okay.
Perfect. I will do.
Thank you. I want to go over to Veronica real quick. I'd love to hear your thoughts about what Marla had to say, especially in reference to I can't think of the word, the imposter syndrome.
Well, I mean, I thought that was really interesting that even Marla, everyone here actually has all said, I'm a serial entrepreneur. Like everyone has claimed that title here on the show. It's addicting. I think once you realize that you can start something and it's actually a lot easier than you may realize, we want to do it more and more and more. But then just as you actually said, Sharifa, that imposter syndrome can come in when we're up leveling, and almost always comes in when we're up leveling. It comes different forms at different times. So sometimes it's because you found yourself in a room with people you don't recognize or you don't see yourself in. You might be the only woman in the room, the only person of color in the room. This is the first time you've been in the room with people of these different titles. But sometimes imposter syndrome is just the still quiet voice inside of you that Marla helps pull out, because whoever that is getting in the way of the big up level. So it definitely takes different forms each time. And it's really important to pay attention to as you're scaling, because what I do with my clients is help them scale. And if imposter syndrome is in the way, then all of the tools that I give them to scale them is not going to help at all.
Mhm. Yes, I definitely agree. Now, do you notice what makes imposter syndrome stand out when you're working with a client? Like they'll say something or do something, you're like, you're not feeling like you deserve to be in that role, or you don't, I'm seeing that maybe you think you're not worthy. Is that what happens?
Oh my God, it comes in so many different ways. So sometimes people, like Don is very self-aware. And so he said that he felt imposter syndrome and needed to go and take care of it with somebody who could lead him through it. But sometimes it comes out differently. Like I have a client right now who said to me, what do you do with friends when you feel like they don't understand what your work is? And so it feels like dissonance with the life that you used to have as you're growing. And of course, we all here on the show today, like we all know that if a friend is having jealousy issues or is holding you back, they're actually not that good of a friend. But that if it felt that easy of a solution where like, oh, I just need to release this friend because they're not actually a quality friend, then they would have done it. So they're holding on to that past shape of their life, whether it's in friends and family and people or habits or other things. And so that's how imposter syndrome manifests for them. So it can be like verbal and conscious, but sometimes it's totally unconscious and it's coming out in other activities.
hmm Don, I'd love to hear your thoughts. What made you realize that you were suffering from imposter syndrome?
When we first started communicating, I was fine. And then I got the email that said, come on my show. Well, I've never come on anybody's show before, so I started feeling a little unease about that. And then I went into complete lockdown. And not for just a few minutes. For a couple of days, could think of nothing else but coming on here and completely failing. And it was the whole time, it was that little voice in my head saying, you're not worthy, you're not worthy, you're not worthy. So yes, if somebody out there is feeling not worthy, get in touch with a professional because they can help you.
Yes, absolutely. I definitely agree. When I first started doing speaking engagements, everything I did was written down and it was scripted to the letter. And I would stumble through and I would fumble and I would forget and I would mispronounce words. And I was like, you know what? This is not working for me. And I literally threw away the paper. Like sometimes now I do bullet points, but I understood that what I was speaking about was my journey and my story. So there was no way to get it wrong. And just like Marla said earlier, now I'm in the present. I'm sitting here completely focused on the audience. So I knew there was no way that I could fail and no way I could go wrong, especially if I was authentic. Thank you for that, Don. Jim, do you ever feel like you have imposter syndrome?
I've been thinking, based on what you're talking about, imposter syndrome. I guess I must have it in a huge way, but I guess it doesn't bother me because I know I'm an imposter. And I don't really care, and it's all good. Like anyone who thinks that they're good, they're going to fail anyways. So I don't think I'm particularly good or particularly special. So what I practice gratitude. So I have a gratitude journal, and I am very grateful for the life I lead. I'm very grateful for what I have. I'm grateful for life, and So for me, I'm just grateful that people think I'm better than I am. How's that?
Veronica, when Jim was talking about being grateful, you were just nodding away. What did you think about what he had to say?
Oh yeah, I mean it's spot on. Gratitude is a great way to move yourself forward, and um, it's a great way to address imposter syndrome. I actually just worked on that with yet another client, a different client than the one I mentioned, to get her started with both gratitude and affirmations because she's gone through an up level, but her internal self doesn't realize that she's gone through an up level. So she's operating on her former self and behaving as such. So yeah, having gratitude and actually just sitting down and writing 3 things minimum right before you go to bed. It, first of all, creates such a peace. Like imagine falling asleep with a smile on your face every night. Who doesn't want that?
Yes.
And it also typically gets the juices flowing. So I've met people who, kind of are stuck in the negative. There's that fear and anxiety. So they're stuck in fear, flight. I always tongue twist the heck out of it because there's freeze, fight, or flight. There's actually 3, not 2, like people try to say. And when you're stuck in that mode, that's a very low place in the mind. It's animalistic, and so you can't operate further. So gratitude starts to pull you out of that because you have to be very conscious in order to have gratitude. And so I say minimum of 3, and that's a struggle at first, and eventually your brain starts building those pathways and it starts dumping, and then you're doing 20 a night or 30 a night, and you're falling asleep grinning every single night and wake up like you're the sun.
Yes, I love it. It reminds me when I was going through the worst times, being laid off 8 times, losing everything. I just felt so alone and unloved. And so what I started doing is just looking in the mirror and say, I love you and God loves you. And if nobody else in the world loves you, that's enough. But then what happened, I'd be like, but your kids love you and your mom loves you and your dad. And I had this list down the block of people who loved me, and just accepting that love allowed me to love myself even more. Marla, I'd love to hear your thoughts.
I love using a gratitude practice. I talk to my clients a lot about it. I talk to my audience a lot about gratitude. It changes everything. And as Veronica was saying, if you don't know what to be grateful for, you can start with the basics. You have a roof over your head, you have a toothbrush, you have toothpaste, you have a blanket, you have clothes, whatever it might be. You might have a pet, but you could start small like that. But what I do is I actually verbalize my gratitude every morning. And when I go to sleep, I close my eyes and then I figure out a few things, because what I find is when I verbalize all the things I'm grateful for in the morning, my business I get to attend to, my husband, my puppy, the people I work with, my clients, I find myself just in joy. I just feel elation and joy, and I just go around singing all the time. And prior to my practice, I will tell you, I wasn't singing as much. I didn't have the joy that I have today. And it really just opens you up because you just see how rich you are in resources. It could be a blue sky, the fact that it's now no longer cold outside for those who live in the north. There's just so much to really wrap your arms around and feel grateful for. And I know we keep saying the word over and over again, but I don't know any other word that really encompasses the feeling of, because I don't even know if thankful is strong enough. So grateful to me is just the catalyst to pretty much everything. Because if you don't have gratitude, then you're always looking at somebody else's, like the grass is always greener, the Joneses have more, and you have to keep up with them. When you're grateful for what's in your life, you don't worry about what other people have. You worry about just about you, your health, your happiness, and you start going introspective.
So with all of your abilities and your gifts, do you ever feel like, who am I to give these messages? Who am I to help these people? Does that ever come to you?
When I first started my practice, so I started walking down my spiritual path in 2003. And it was around 2014 when I was awakened by a big booming voice yelling at me, literally yelling at me, telling me I had to start a practice and I had to start helping people. And at the beginning, because people knew me, I had an event management company, I had a candy manufacturing company, I had a pet taxi, and I had a bakery. So people knew me from all of these other businesses. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, all of a sudden she's an energy healer. So I went through my own imposter, and I had to work through it with the help of, when I was learning new modalities and new things, talking to my peers, my teachers, to realize that we all have these abilities that I have, and that it's just that I'm bringing mine out. So yes, I could be 70 years old and still, now know that I can walk in this path and take ownership of what I can offer my clients.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I understand completely. No, Don, when you mentioned getting help and suffering from imposter syndrome, was it something that just went away completely, or did you notice it come up and then you have steps and tools that you utilize in order to push it back down?
Well, there's a couple of different answers to that. And if I may, I'd like to comment on the gratitude journal.
Absolutely.
I work with a lot of clients that I work on acknowledgement. And very similar to the gratitude journal, I ask them every night to write down, to acknowledge 3 things that they accomplished during the day. And the next morning to get up and read those things, so that to help prime them for the day forward. I also ask them to write down 3 things that they failed to accomplish that day. But to leave that. So I want them on different pages. And what we do is we gradually work through the acknowledgement phase, and the acknowledgement and the understanding that yes, you do have value, that what you are making progress, what you're doing is a positive thing. That helps to get them to a place where they can open up. And acknowledgement is a really powerful tool. The hardest part of getting them into the acknowledgement is getting them away from praise, because praise is kind of shallow. It's a judgment of, okay, I got this done, but I didn't do it well. Why are you judging? You got it done. That's the important thing to acknowledge. So much like the gratitude journal that everybody was talking about, we work on an acknowledgement journal. The other importance of acknowledgement is that when you are working with other people, acknowledging that they were able to, acknowledging what they did, it gives them recognition. It's not a platitude. It has value that carries over into the next day and into the next week and into the next month. They feel more valuable. They feel more like they are contributing to the team and to the organization. So thank you for indulging me on that. As far as the imposter syndrome, what I had to acknowledge to myself was that I have done hundreds, if not thousands, of presentations to people that make a whole lot more money than I ever did. And there was value in those presentations. I'm not a person who does a PowerPoint and then reads the PowerPoint to everybody. And it actually drives me nuts when somebody does do that. I prefer to have bullet points and then expand on the bullet points when I'm doing a presentation. So much like that, for today, I wrote down 2 or 3 things that I would really like to talk to and get out there. And we went right into it with the gratitude journal and the acknowledgement journal.
Okay, so what else was on your list? What haven't we mentioned?
How teams work. It was one, and the other one was the concept of personal advisory boards.
Oh yeah.
Interesting. So would you like to start the discussion on personal advisory boards, or should I go
Sure.
over to Jim?
Oh, let Jim speak. He always.
Jim, because we've spoken about this before. That's why I was like, okay, this will be right up Jim's alley, because he talks about all his boards that he's on. Jim?
So, I mean, we were just getting into personal advisory boards, and I'm a member of YPO, Young Presidents Organization, that does a group of forums, which is sort of a safe group of business people. So I like being in a group of people who are non-competitive in similar, but have similar challenges. In that case, it's a business group. And I do sit on a number of boards of directors as well. That's slightly different because many of the boards are fiduciary boards, which have legal responsibilities, which are different than just an advisory board. But I'm a huge advocate of that. I'm also a huge advocate of having mentors. And I will tell you that most of my mentors, and I have many more than just one, don't know that they're my mentor. I don't even have to. I just, well, back when we could have lunch, I used to just buy them lunch occasionally or whatever. But, and I have different mentors for different things, because some people I think of in a certain area and other people I think of in a different area.
Absolutely. Veronica, personal advisory boards, what's your take on?
Yes. That's all I have to say. I'm done.
Was
I
it
was kidding.
Spanish?
Dropping the mic. All set. No, I love them. And I love that we're touching on this. I have a client who's developing her personal advisory board right now. I call it building your bench, like in sports, how you have a bunch of people sitting on a bench waiting to back you up when you're tired or you need something. And so, yeah, I'm a huge fan of this. And I love what Jim said, actually, reflecting back on it. I've had many mentors in the same way, where they don't really realize they're a mentor, especially if I'm entering a new industry, where I just need to pick somebody's brain. So buy up a cup of coffee, you don't have to put them out. You don't have to make it a whole thing, like pressure them into being your advisor or your mentor. But you can choose to keep certain people around you who will help you grow, who you like to pick their brain, like what they have to say. And then in particular, actually, really thinking about the people who are ahead of you, so that they're going somewhere you want to go. Those are also great people to have as mentors, personal advisory board, whatever you want to call it.
Absolutely. Marla, what are your thoughts?
I find them so valuable because everybody comes from a different perspective. And if you find people who you have the utmost of respect for whatever the area, whether it's business acumen or personal issues, whatever it could be, and you have them in your corner, then you've got all the riches in the world, because they can guide you because you can't guide yourself. You're too deep in the forest for yourself sometimes. So when you have your personal advisory board, your mentors, whether they know it or not, the people that you surround yourself with and you brainstorm with, I feel that they bring a different level of perspective to you, and they come from a different point of view than yours. And I think that's incredibly powerful, especially if you're looking to venture into something new and different that really you're not that familiar with.
Absolutely. So Don, how is it that someone who suffered from imposter syndrome just set an entire topic for a talk show? How does that make you feel?
I belong.
You do. See, you are worthy. So what are your thoughts, Don?
Well, I agree with everything that everybody has said about this. I actually take that a step farther with the personal advisory boards, and this I urge people to ask 2, maybe 3 people whose you like how their mind works, or you value their experience, or there could be a dozen other factors that would involve in that you would involve in that decision. And you ask them to be part of your personal advisory board. You formalize that relationship. And then when you have a problem, you have 2 or 3 people that you can talk to, that you value their opinion. Because of that, you're plugged into their network as well. So if you need a mentor, if you need an advisor and you don't know who to go to, they will. or they're going to give you that different perspective on what it is that you need. So actually formalizing that relationship with a small group of people has tremendous value.
I think that's very interesting. I don't have a formal advisory board. Maybe I need to create one. I just have a Rolodex full of people that when I come up with my genius idea at 3 o'clock in the morning, I call them at about 8 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like, okay, is this genius or is like 3 o'clock in the morning? And some will say, and I'll always say, you know, people talk about having yes people around them. I don't have yes people. I have yes but people. That's what I call them, because they know that I'm going to do it anyway, no matter what they say. But they go, yes, that's a great idea. But have you thought about this? Have you
Right.
considered this? You know, and that's how I make my ideas better and improve on them. But I always have people that I go to for advice. Absolutely. Absolutely. Great topic, Don. Thank you for suggesting it. I
Thank you.
appreciate it. I need all the help I can get. I was reading on social media about 2 weeks ago, and I saw a marketing department introduce a product. And I was like, wait a minute, I know that man. I know that company. It's Jim Steele. And I kind of felt some kind of way because I'm like, how are they talking about a product that Jim never told me about? Jim, you holding out on me?
So, well, if we are going to go through all of my products, I'm just going to have to keep them back for the next 5 years.
Okay.
So what you're talking about is Parcel Guard, and Parcel Guard is a smart parcel mailbox that a UPS or a FedEx driver puts the parcel in, and it sends an email or a text to you to say you've got a 5-pound parcel at 9:45. You can look on the IP camera and see who's there. If the parcel is too big to fit in the top, it takes a fairly decent sized parcel, shoebox size. But if it was something bigger, like that case of wine you were going to deliver me, then you can remotely open it, or you can give people a code, a one-time use code, or I can give my son a code he can use all the time to take my mail out of my my mailbox. But I know that your show is listened to by entrepreneurs. To explain how we came up with that, I was sitting in the factory saying, what could we make? Because you're trying to get utilization, you're trying to get everything fully utilized. What else could we make in the factory? And I said, well, maybe we're not just an appliance company. So we don't just make freezers and wine coolers and fridges. We're a company that makes big boxes because appliances are big and we know how to handle big stuff. We've got, million square foot, like lots of space, and we've got the forklifts and the clamp trucks, and we just know how to handle big things. So that was the genesis, to change thinking who we were from being an appliance company to being a company that makes big boxes. At the time we came up with this was before the pandemic. So our industry pre-pandemic was relatively low growth. Most of the freezers were replacement of a 10-year-old freezer. It wasn't a massively high growth business where I was listening or hearing about parcel delivery going through the roof, hearing about parcel theft going through the roof. And I know, Sharifa, you're a marketer, so you will really like our marketing program. And I don't know whether I should say this on live, but what we do is we steal the parcel and put a Post-it note on the door saying, if you had a parcel guard, we wouldn't have stolen the parcel. And then if you don't buy a parcel guard from us, then we put the next Post-it note and say, we'll give you your parcel as an incentive if you buy a parcel guard. I'm just teasing.
Yeah, I know.
Oh my
I
God.
know. I know. But I want to go back to the code. So the UPS deliver has the code?
No. So the it's just like a mailbox. You can just
Okay.
pull it down. You can't reach in because it blocks it, but you can put a parcel in. So most parcels and mail just fits in the top. If it was something big, then you can give someone a code to open up the bottom. So you can, and most places like Amazon, you can put delivery instructions and say, here's the code. It also has two-way voice. So you can put a note on saying, just call me on my cell, or you can hit the button and it tells me you're there, and I can talk to someone that's on the front porch, or I can actually remotely open it. I use my app to open it all the time. It does have a key or a code, so you can open with a code, you can open with a key, or you can just use an app to open it. So it's just a smart parcel mailbox. I believe within a decade, most homes will have something to protect their parcels from theft. I'm not saying it's going to be my device, and I'm not the only device, but it will be something. Just because I just don't think people are just going to have all their deliveries sitting on their front porch.
Mhm.
This will never be popular in Berlin. I'm laughing because I want it to be popular in Berlin, but the way packages work here is that they go to your neighbor if you're not home. So your neighbor will have all your packages.
Yeah,
So
but
you get to
see,
know your neighbors really well.
that's the thing though, because one of the things I always talk about is the pet rock sold. I mean, you never know in what circumstance something will sell, because when all your packages go to your neighbors, I'm like, opportunity, that's a whole marketing campaign. Don't make your neighbor responsible for your packages. Get Parcel Guard. So you could edit that and take
Oh, I
that.
like that.
Well,
I love that you brought up the pet rock scenario. I use that with my clients constantly when they're doubting their own product. I'm like, if a pet rock can sell, you can do this. I know you can.
Yes, that's my go-to. It's like the pet rock doesn't cry, it doesn't wet, it doesn't sing, but he sold millions of them. Marla, you're nodding. I love to hear your thoughts.
It's right. I agree. And chia pet. I mean, who would have thought that putting chia seeds in water on a ceramic figurine would be as popular as it is? And it is. And so I just think you can find a purpose for almost anything. You just you have to know how to place it where. That's what you do. That's where your expertise is. And I think the Parcel Guard, I've seen it I've seen something, I don't know if it's that specific, but in apartment buildings where they have a parcel room and they have little drawers and I don't know if this is the same, Jim, but where, you just put,
so the one,
UPS,
the one we have
FedEx
is not.
throws it in there, gives you a code.
Yeah, ours is not
I'm sorry?
the one we have is not the apartment version. It's the home version. And
Okay.
where popular is suburbs, where the homes are a little distance apart. In the cities, most people don't own the sidewalk, don't have space in the sidewalk. You have a doorman, you have a mail room and stuff like that. But there's an awful lot of standalone households that people go off to work in the morning and no one's there to receive their parcels. It's confidentiality. It's a terrible thing to say though. It's kind of like inventing the door lock. Someone at some point invented a door lock. Well, once enough people have a door lock, then everyone has to have a lock on their door. Interestingly, here in North Carolina, my brother lived in North Carolina and he lost his key or didn't have a key to his house. He lived in North Carolina for years. He didn't have a key to his house because he lost it and he left his door open all the time. But anyway, that's a side conversation.
Depending upon where you live, some people do that. I was brought up in the city of Chicago, in the city, so I lock everything all the time, even if it's the safest thing in the world, safest place in the world, I lock it up. But that's habit.
Yeah.
I once left my front door keys in my front door overnight. Just totally forgot them.
And nothing happened?
Nothing happened. Nothing happened.
Wow. Don, are you going to get that parcel
Thank goodness.
lock?
I don't need to. In order for a parcel to be delivered to us, they have to come onto our property, and it's well over 100 feet from the street. So
Oh, wow.
it's kind of when we moved out of the city, that was one of the things we really wanted to do, was get out of the city.
Yes, I love it. I love it. Just 100 feet. Like, you have a lot of space on there. I love those ideas. Now, I want to go over to Veronica real quick, because one of the things that you mentioned was that everyone here is a serial entrepreneur. One of the questions I love asking serial entrepreneurs was, were you always this way? Were you one of those kids who had a lemonade stand, or maybe, some of the guys, they were mowing the lawn, but was there I remember one lady told me she was selling tickets to her backyard carnival at 6. And I was like, what was in this carnival? She was like, well, I had this little turn. Her dad had made all this stuff, but she was selling tickets to her friends for a nickel to come in her backyard at 6 years old. Veronica, what was yours like, your experience?
When I was 10, I was selling Beanie Baby beds door to door because I grew up during the Beanie Baby rage. So that's how I made my quick buck. I had a sewing machine. What 10-year-old has a sewing machine? I don't know, but I did. And I got fabric from one of the neighbors who had it left over from making her curtains. And I made Beanie Baby beds and I sold them door to door for $5 each.
How many did you sell?
I don't even remember.
Was it a lot of Beanie Baby beds? Was it 2 Beanie Baby beds?
I was fairly well known in the neighborhood.
Okay. The reason I'm asking, because based on that, people kind of decide whether they want to continue this entrepreneurial journey or not. Don, what was your first experience as an entrepreneur?
Selling Christmas cards door to door. I
Aw.
was 10 or 11 when I started doing that. And my goal was, one of the prizes back then that we could win was a rifle.
Oh, wow.
And single shot 22 target rifle. And I achieved that goal.
Wow.
But after that, I started working on getting other people to work for me and get them to work together, because together there was more opportunity for everybody. And I would have 2 or 3 people doing 2 or 3 different things, but they all worked together.
Don, you're an example of like what can be, like from someone who suffered from imposter syndrome. You got it early on, is that in order to build, in order to grow, you have to be able to hire people. I mean, so many entrepreneurs who've been in business for years, 20, 30 years, and it's just them. They're a one person mom and pop shop. I'm like, you have to go out of that entrepreneurial mindset to be in an employer mindset, because that's when you're creating jobs and building businesses. This has been an incredible show. I have so enjoyed it. What I love to do at the end of every show is just simply allow my guests the opportunity to speak directly to the audience, to everyone who is watching this show live, as well as everyone who is watching it in the archives, and let them know what you want them to take away from your appearance here today. And we're going to start with you, Marla.
So please check out my website at marlagoldberg.com to learn about what I do, how I work with people, how I can help them. You can find my book, my Scream Pillow, which I designed, which is one of the tools in my book, because sometimes we're really close together and we need to scream because we're just that frustrated or angry and you don't want to alarm someone. So that's on my website. And my 30-day meditation challenge is on there. It's 30 ways in 30 days to either begin a meditation practice or deepen what you already have. And to take away is just, whatever's going on in your life, what I'm hearing is it's all fluid. So just know that whatever challenge you're going through, just keep going, just keep moving forward, because this too shall pass. And what is brought to you will be brought to you for a reason to learn and grow with.
Yes, I love it. So I love when people say what I'm hearing. So the message that you are hearing is to be fluid and to be adaptable. So that's the message that I'm going to take from today's show. Thank you, Marla. Don, what do you have?
Sharifa.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Don, what do you have for us?
Open your heart to the universe. What you need, the universe will deliver.
Don, you're a man of few words. I need some more words, Don. I need the shameless self-promotion, Don, in here.
Shameless. Reach out to me. I have a knack for helping people find what it is that they need to know. Reach out to me, dmccallum at balcoach.com. Go to my website, www.balcoach.com. Let me help you become a team leader.
There you go, Don. There you go. See, you know how to do it. You just got to put that shyness away and let the people know you are here to help with confidence. Thank you.
Thank you.
Veronica, what do you have for us?
Hey. And I've noticed we're having technical difficulties. So if you can only hear me but not see me, just listen to my voice for a second. I work with entrepreneurs who have a 70-year plan. So I'm not talking a 7-year plan or a 1-year plan, 70-year, your whole life. And I use scaling tools and tactics in order to get you there. Because if you burn out before you get to your dream, then what is it all for? And if imposter syndrome is standing in the way of all that, again, you're not going to ever achieve that 70-year plan. So if any of that sounds familiar, if you dream big, if you want to have a wide, massive impact, but you also want the income to go with it, I'm going to put the link to my calendar in the comments on Facebook, on the original live video here on Facebook, and you can reach out to me. And I'd love to just talk to you about what you're dreaming up, and I will be your cheerleader and your guide. Whatever you need, I'm there for you.
Yes, we love that. Thank you. And we can see you, Veronica. We can see you proud and clear. We can see you. Thank you for that. Jim, what do you think of today's show?
I loved it, just like I love all shows, all of your shows. I love what Veronica was saying about 70-year plan, because I always thought I was very long term, and I tend to think in terms of decades. But maybe I should do a 70-year plan, because that would be one of my things is health, and I'd love to live another 70 years. But and of course, shameless self-promotion. Danby Appliances, we make refrigerators, bar fridges, and this time of year, we also sell air conditioners. And people say, why would an appliance company do air conditioners and humidifiers? Because they have compressors. So we buy 2 million compressors a year, and that becomes the appliances that we sell. And the words of wisdom, I will address the imposter syndrome with my solution to so many things is be grateful and have gratitude. And if you're able to listen to this podcast, you have lots to be grateful for.
Yes, absolutely. Did you hear the message though, Jim? Be adaptable. That's the message that we're going to right now. Go with the flow. Don't fight it. Just flow with the river. Okay.
Perfect. Absolutely.
Okay. Yes. I did want to ask Veronica another question though before I left with this 70-year plan. Like, I heard everything you had to say, but I'm 45. When I did the math with 45 and 70, I was like, that's too long. That's too long. That's too much. Like, I'm not even going to
But
live.
you're in the middle of it. That's the point. Everything that you have ever done has led you to this moment. I know you know that's true. You wouldn't have the roundtable if you hadn't run for city council. You wouldn't run for city council if you didn't, right? Like, there's all of these pieces that string together. And that is where breakthrough with imposter syndrome happens as well. Because if you look back over your life and you realize that all of these things led to this moment, to this opportunity, who could have imposter syndrome? You built it yourself.
Yeah, now that's how you end a show right there. That is how you end a show. That was incredible. And I absolutely agree, because I was doing my math wrong. Now I see all the steps along the way. So I appreciate that clarification. I want to thank you all for joining me on today's episode of the Roundtable Talk Show. And I especially want to thank everyone who tuned in to watch this show live, as well as everyone who is watching it in the archives. Just because you didn't catch the show live does not mean you're not important, and we still need your support. So whether you're watching it 4 days from now, 5 weeks from now, or 6 years from now, it doesn't matter. Please go ahead and share the show and support our guests, because our guests were here this morning to support you, to share their journey, their stories, and they were very authentic and real this morning. So please support them. Their website link is in the Facebook post, but don't just visit their websites. Follow them on social media. Jim has some really great stuff. I have to check out everyone else's social media, but reach out to them, send them a message. And when you do, please let them know Sharifa Hardy says hi. Now, if you're interested in more ways that I can help your business, or maybe you want to be a guest on the Roundtable Talk Show, please visit my website at asksharifa.com. Until tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Pacific, everyone have a safe and a blessed day. Bye now.